transition to college football when we talked about HBCU athletics. So there was a big game last week that we talked about last week. The Petty Bowl. Jackson State, Alabama A&M. Shit talk involved between both squads. There's no love lost between the squad and the coaches, players and coaches. But to see Jackson State beat them down the way they did, like a rented mule, curb-stomped them like they owed them, as if someone owed them money. 61-15.
Yeah.
And Deion's, what he had to say afterwards with letting the pink scooter was perfect. So perfect Petty. Perfect Petty. But
now,
but I want you to go into this because you're close to it. You watched it. You've probably written about it by now. So just give me your thoughts on this. And also, does this make Jackson State a legit power in the Eastern Division in the SWAC?
I'll answer the question about them being a legit power in the SWAC in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But last week I did talk about all of the petty leading up to the game.
Yes, you did.
But Connell Manor added a little bit more petty spice to the game right at kickoff. Remember, I've talked about several times during the spring of Connell Manor and his affinity for one Nature Boy Ric Flair. Right. He actually did an impersonation of Ric Flair after winning this SWAC championship in the spring. Well, guess who was his special guest at Alabama A&M's homecoming on Saturday? The one and only Ric Flair showed up for the coin toss.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, this petty train just keeps on going. But from the outset of that game, Jackson State's defense proved to be way too much for Alabama A&M's offense.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that a lot of people, well, there's some that knew, but it needed to play out, and it surely did on last Saturday. The problems that Alabama A&M has been having on the defensive side of the ball, and the fact that they give up a ton of points. The question was whether or not Jackson State's offense was going to click and score points. Oh, did they? And did they?
That didn't count the scoop and score from earlier. It didn't count that either.
Right. So it not even counting the scoop and score, right?
Mm-hmm.
They still scored on, what was it? Matter of fact, hey, look at God. I still have my notes here from Monday.
All right.
Look
at God.
They scored. They had 6 scoring drives by the offense of 50 or more yards. So that meant that the offense actually had to make some drives in order for them to get points on the board. Shador Sanders actually had 300 plus yards of total offense and 5 total touchdowns by his damn self. So that was the one thing that Coach Sanders has been harping on all season long, is that the defense is their defense. They need to get consistency from their offense.
Right.
If that becomes the situation, even though Shador actually said during the preseason that, we see the best talent in the SWAC in practice every day.
Yep.
And a lot of people laughed at him when he said that.
I remember that.
Now, yes, they have a top 10 in the nation defense, but this offense is starting to click. Again, if they can be consistent and they don't lose out, it's going to be tough to beat Jackson State in the SWAC. It really is. And I think they do have Southern later on. They have Alcorn as well. That's going to be a game to watch. But Petty Bowl 2, Electric Boogaloo, comes up this weekend when they face Alabama State in Jackson. And those that remember the spring where, Deion had some disparaging things to say about ASU and how they treated him and his players when he got there. And then, of course, the posting of the vintage photo of Prime with the jerry curl and the EK glasses placed on the scoreboard after the win. I know he hasn't forgotten about that. He hasn't talked much about it as much as he talked like he did with Alabama A&M because, of course, Coach Maynard has been very mouthy But yeah, there's no love lost in that situation either. And don't be surprised if they try to put a message on Alabama State this weekend too, because of what happened during the spring. But the quote by Coach Sanders after the game, when he was asked about the score, was one, I wanted to make sure that all the lights on the scoreboard worked. And two, we didn't score as many points as we should have. We left about 14, 21 points on the field offensively, and we allowed them to score a one touchdown more than what they should have. That game should have been a whole lot worse than what it was, end quote. So, yeah, it's, oh, my God. If this success carries over for the rest of the fall for Jackson State, and they're the Celebration Bowl representative, Atlanta is going to be on fire in December.
Oh God,
it'll
be turned. It'll be turned. Atlanta's gonna be turned.
I'll say this, right?
His native son coming back home too. Wow.
Yes. Now, when A&T would go to Atlanta, yes, I'm tooting our horn. When A&T would come to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl, it really became A&T Atlanta, really.
Right.
But this is a whole different monster. You're talking about a Hall of Fame NFL player who is now the head coach of an HBCU that has turned around a program that is now garnering a lot of eyes because of how great they're playing, not just because of who their coach is. But they go to the Celebration Bowl in December. This is their SWAC championship to lose. And the only way that they lose it is if they get inconsistent play from the offense. They can't have it against Alcorn, and they sure as hell can't have it against Prairie View if that's who they end up facing in the SWAC championship, because those two offenses are very potent as well. And all it takes is to slip up on the defense once or twice and their offense not performing well for them to go ahead and end up losing the game. But as of right now, they're my favorites to win because they have all the intangibles to win one. It's whether or not they have the consistency